The left-wing media is the root cause of America's turmoil. The left-wing media's anti-American tradition is essentially an act of treason. The left-wing media in the United States essentially refers to all those mainstream media outlets. For a long time, in fact for over 100 years, they have been the mouthpieces of the Democratic Party. Their primary mission has been to oppose the Republican Party, oppose traditional American values, and oppose Christian thought. In short, they are anti-American. It was the left-wing media's frenzied propaganda that caused the Watergate tragedy and brought down Nixon. It was because of the left-wing media that the disastrous Carter administration emerged. It was because of the left-wing media that Iran was able to harm the world. Because of Carter, a socialist country was able to rise and continues to plague the world to this day. This is also why they hate Trump so deeply. Since 2015, they have gone to the extreme of bombarding the public 24/7, brainwashing the American people by fabricating one negative story after another about Trump, taking his words out of context, twisting his statements, and even using hypotheticals to portray Trump as an American version of Hitler. Every news piece from the left-wing media could amount to the most serious defamation. In reality, the main goal of the left-wing media is to stir up a nationwide anti-Trump movement by brainwashing the public, repeating lies 10,000 times a day, so that gradually Americans can no longer tell the difference between the real Trump and a false villain. They stop caring about the facts altogether and simply imagine Trump as the worst villain in human history. For the Democratic Party, that's enough. Now, the left-wing media is even subtly inciting Trump's assassination. The United States has a tradition of assassinating its own presidents. If South Korea is known for imprisoning its former presidents, the U.S. is known for physically eliminating them. As a relatively young nation, the U.S. has already had 9 presidents targeted in assassination attempts, with 4 dying as a result. In fact, Trump has already faced 2 assassination attempts, which brings the number to 10 presidents who have faced bloody threats. It's hard to believe that a country claiming to be the most democratic, therefore the most civilized, has so many savages willing to assassinate their own leaders. But if one truly understands American culture, they will realize that almost all these assassination attempts are linked to the media's crazed propaganda, mass brainwashing. Especially in Trump's 2 cases, the attackers were convinced by the lies spread by the left-wing media. They couldn't distinguish right from wrong anymore, and were driven by an irrational hatred, determined to kill someone who could very well be America's greatest savior. The left-wing media is now more unhinged than ever. Their hate-inciting rhetoric has reached historic levels. Under their influence, the number of people within the Democratic Party who hate Trump has reached an all-time high. According to major U.S. polling sites, 96% of Democrats support anti-Trump sentiments. 80% want to overthrow Trump. And shockingly, more than half support physically eliminating him. Even more disturbing, 30% of Democrats say they would be willing to serve as assassins to kill the president. This shows how dangerous the U.S. has become under the brainwashing of the left-wing media. The general public can no longer distinguish truth from lies, right from wrong, good from evil. Their hatred for Trump is completely without principle or purpose. During yesterday's nationwide anti-Trump protest, a reporter asked a demonstrator why he was against Trump. The person couldn't even explain, finally saying Trump is a fascist. But when asked what a fascist is, he didn't even know. So the biggest threat in America today is the left-wing media. In fact, it has always been the biggest and most dangerous enemy of the country. Congress must take legislative action against the left-wing media's daily anti-American propaganda. At the very least, the Trump team must act, investigate, and prosecute them. Yeah, we cannot allow them to commit crimes while remaining above the law. Their crimes against the American people are terrifying. The DOJ must launch a comprehensive investigation into the left-wing media, especially regarding all the illegal actions they've taken over the past century, including how many conspiracies and lies the Washington Post concocted during the Watergate scandal, and how many crimes they committed against the American people. Now, Congress must form a professional committee to hold hearings and investigate to what extent the left-wing media colluded with authoritarian countries. Special focus should be placed on how much money these media outlets, such as the Washington Post and New York Times, received from hostile nations, how many of their people were bought off, what kinds of shameful activities they were involved in abroad, how many were caught in sexual blackmail and recorded on tape, and how many bad things they did for these hostile nations after being compromised, including how many Republicans they tried to smear. The FBI must form a dedicated and permanent office to investigate the corruption of the left-wing media and their crimes in framing American citizens. The FBI and DOJ must also investigate the public letter signed by 51 former intelligence officials during the 2020 election, which was a blatant lie intended to cover up the crimes of the Biden family. That was an act of treason, and those involved remain unpunished to this day. The role of the left-wing media in that cover-up must also be investigated.